Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're talking about everybody's favorite topic, making money while you sleep. We're going to talk about getting out of your own way, developing a mindset for success and to grow your wealth. It's just going to be, I think, a fun, great conversation with an awesome guest, Bronson Hill. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Hey, Brandon. Thanks, man. I really appreciate what you're creating, and I love talking about this topic. So I'm excited to jump in.
I love it. This is the secret that everybody wants, right? Making money in your sleep, passive income. I know you invest in real estate, and it's seemingly a simple topic, but not a whole lot of people have cracked the code. So you are a multi-time published author, which is awesome. What do people miss? Let's just start right there. What do people miss when they're looking at what do they call it? Mailbox money?
Yeah.
But they don't make it work.
Yeah, well, I think that there's a lot of myths out there, Brandon, that, passive income is a term that gets thrown around. But, when you buy a rental house or two or three, it's not really passive, because even if I have a property manager, I've still got to buy the house. I've got to manage the manager, or there's issues sometimes with the tenant, or there's issues with, the plumbing, or, something comes up. And so you're constantly having to kind of deal with it. It never really works out exactly kind of how you want it. And so there's a scalability test that I find that, whether it's an online business or it's online, trading, doing options or stock trading or having rental houses, if you can't 10x the size of what you're doing. So if you can go from 2 rental houses very quickly to 20 rental houses, then you're not really passive investing. And the problem is we undervalue our time. So we'll say we're getting this kind of return, we're doing the amazing, but if you're spending, a lot of time, hours a week, things like this on it, even if you're not the one managing it, it's not really passive.
I'm exhausted just hearing that. Honestly, it makes me think I shouldn't get into real estate at all. I should stick to dealing cocaine on the weekends. It seems like a much more scalable business.
Side business, right?
side business. No, okay. Full disclosure, government. I don't do that. Please don't come investigating me. But in all seriousness, I mean that really does sound exhausting. So why is that I guess everyone's favorite passive income model? It's the single family homes or maybe duplexes even, but that doesn't seem scalable at all. And it doesn't take a whole lot of thinking to get to that verdict. So why is that the most popular, and what kind of route do you go instead?
Well, the problem too is I think kind of how we're taught about finance. I'm going to kind of back up here for a second, is that we're really taught by big Wall Street firms that the way to invest is by having a financial advisor and investing in stocks and bonds. And that's kind of how we're taught. So even the conversation of doing real estate is kind of outside of that box. But I could get in the history of, how we got here. But I think the problem is, the challenge, we all know we should do real estate. We all know that wealthy real estate person who's got 10 houses or runs an apartment complex and they're doing great and they're happy and maybe they're financially free. So we know we should be doing it. The problem is, how do we get from here to there without becoming a slave to another job? And so I think that the problem, especially with single family, is that a lot of us live in single family homes or have lived in a single family home at some point, and we're comfortable with it. We know it, we understand it. So it doesn't feel that foreign to go buy another house, right? It feels very comfortable. Oh, you can buy another house and rent it out. But the problem is, to really get to true scale, you've got to do bigger deals. The problem, let's say I were to get and this was my plan initially, I had, 4 or 5 single family houses. I was going to try to get to 30 or 50, but I realized it was just super inefficient, right? It was a lot of work to manage versus if you had an apartment building that, let's say it had, 30 or 50 units in one place, you have, one property manager, you often have a full-time maintenance person that's involved, especially maybe 60 units or more. Maybe you have a leasing person involved. It's much more efficient. You have one roof, you got one set of plumbing, you have the same appliances that are in all the units, you have the same paint colors, versus if I had 50 houses and I have one repair guy, he's got to, go and you pay him $50 an hour. He's got to go to the place, look at the issue, go to Home Depot, go get the part and come back. It's very inefficient, right? So there's a lot of less efficiencies versus doing it together. And when you do a larger deal, it allows you to really have economies of scale. And it just because I can't afford to buy a 50 unit doesn't mean that I can't pool my money with other investors. And this is called syndication, where we go buy a larger building. So the problem is, we're trying to scale, but the way we're scaling, it's almost like in your business. And we were talking about this earlier, the 10X versus the 2X model, right? If I'm thinking 2X, which is easier to double or to 10X the size of my business, most people would say it's easier to 2X because that sounds like I know what I needed to do, right? Just if I'm working 40 hours now, I work 80 hours then, right? And I can do it. But 10X, you'd have to let go of like 80% of what you were doing and actually have to become a different person to be in that place. So it's basically a whole different model where instead of me being the one that does it, I'm the one who kind of vets the team and the deal who's, that I'm looking at to invest with. And then that's how you're able to get mailbox money. You invest with the team, you invest with somebody else who does the work, and then you do get the mailbox money, or now with direct deposit money. So again, it's a different model, but it's something that I've seen many people scale their wealth very effectively over time.
So this is not a tactics conversation. This is a mindset conversation, because what you're saying is if we took this to the business world, essentially single family homes versus multi-unit complexes, it's kind of like in your example, and I'm being a little dramatic, I know that, just bear with me, people. It's kind of like setting up a whole new business for every single client, right? I mean, there are some shared resources, but if you have 60 clients, you have 60 individual places to visit and work streams to set up, and maybe even different property managers in some cases. Like that to me seems a little crazy. So, but the mindset shift is very simple. How do we make this scalable? Simple, not easy, right? So what is that mindset that we need to be looking at versus the small and bite-size approach to single family investing versus just looking at investing a whole different way?
Yeah, well, it really is. It's funny, I've been able to spend time with 2,500. I've had individual interviews with 2,500 millionaires, average net worth of 2 million, some 10 to 30 million or higher, and I've just realized this group kind of operates very differently, right? So they'll typically, have a different mindset when it comes to wealth, when it comes to approaching things, and this is one thing I want to say real quick. And this was shocking to me when I learned this, but there's this belief that wealth is either have it or you don't. You're either inherited it, you had it from a trust fund thing, and a lot of, entrepreneurs, people that are on this show as well listening, we know that's not true. But Fidelity Investments came out with a study and said that this was in 2019, that 86% of millionaires are self-made, meaning they did not inherit their money. So these are learnable, teachable things and skills, just like for our listener that learned how to scale a business to a 6, 7, 8 figure. These are learnable things when it comes to wealth. So again, just because you've never done it doesn't mean you can't do it. And I 100% agree with you that it is a mindset, because just because you don't know anybody that's done it or you've never met somebody doesn't mean you can't go to a local meetup in your town, go to a real estate conference, listen to podcasts, and find groups that are doing this, right? So everything kind of sounds weird until you've done it. And maybe you're in a business. You were sharing a little bit about the the personality stuff that you created, and you're doing other things in your business as well, Brandon. But for listeners as well, I mean, if you look back and say, I was doing this other job and now I'm doing this thing where, like, for example, for us, I've raised over $50 million in the last 5-6 years from retail investors. That sounds crazy, right? But it's happened in sequence. It's happened over time. So these changes, they happen when you see it first. You create the mindset that it's possible and that you can do it. And so if Warren Buffett says, that's the famous quote, unless you learn how to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die, to me shows that it is possible to make money while you sleep. And I've done it, other people have done it. So for somebody listening, the first thing is convincing yourself that if other people have done it, then I'm able to do this, right?
Yeah, which is often the first problem, right? Like, we see other people have done it, but we don't take that step to say, so I can too, or so I can learn this too. I mean, 2,500 conversations with millionaires, that's intentional conversations. Let me put that out there, because I'm sure we've all talked to a couple of millionaires, if not dozens and hundreds, but having the intentional conversation to figure out what's different for them, what's their mindset. I'm curious what you learned from those conversations. Was there a distinct point that they made a shift? And if so, what is that mindset that they formerly had? Because I have a feeling a lot of us may still have that, or are even somewhat stuck in that mindset.
Yeah. So my second book, called Rich Brain, is not out yet, but it basically is based on the research from these 2,500 interviews that I've had. But basically, it really does come down to thinking differently. a lot of almost every single person I talked to that had a net worth of over $10 million had some sort of mindset practice. They did affirmations, they wrote down their goals, they went to goals retreats, they had things that they did intentionally around mindset. And so the most, I think, kind of surprising thing to me about this research and writing this book was this concept I call wealth worthiness. Now, wealth worthiness is like, we haven't heard that term because it's a new term, but basically it's the idea that like I get in life what I feel worthy of. And for example, most people will like have some sort of thermostat where they feel like, okay, I'm worthy. I'm making 100 grand. They'll find a way to kind of make 100 grand each year. The guy who's making $1 million will kind of find a way to make $1 million. Well, why is that? Most people typically either stay where they're at. They have incremental growth. So what'll happen is somebody go from a job at 100K, then they'll make 150K, they'll make 200K. And then 20 years later, they're making 500K. They have kind of a sequential thing. And then you'll see some people that have this big jump. They'll go from making 100K to like making $1 million a year, like almost right away. Like, how does that kind of jump happen? And really the way it happens is a change in wealth worthiness, right? That they walk into a situation and they believe they're worthy of it and they have it. So what this looks like, if I don't feel like I'm worthy of something, I will subconsciously sabotage business situations, opportunities. I won't move forward to something that I feel like, and it won't even be a conscious thing. I just won't. An example of this as well, in a relational sense, let's say I'm a single guy. I show up at a party and I see a beautiful woman and I'm going to go over and talk to her. Right. But if my self-talk is negative, if I'm like, oh, she's not going to like me, I'm not good looking, I have nothing to offer, that conversation is probably not going to go very well if it happens at all. Right. Versus if I have that internal, like, man, she'd be lucky to talk to me, whatever. I may not say it out loud, but if I feel like I have if I feel like I'm worthy of having a great relationship with a beautiful woman, then that's going to go very differently. Right. So I think that this also applies when it comes to wealth. It also applies into different things. So again, the people that have a lot of people have incremental jumps in this. Some people have really big jumps, and there's specific things around mindset that I've kind of discovered that you can do. But it's something that's very apparent. People that have that worthiness of receiving either that next business deal or you see it in different elements. I'll give one example of this too. I had a deal that basically I've been creating it myself. We talked about this book before we started, Brandon, that the 10X is easier than 2X book, right? So I've been saying I'm a 10X person. I'm becoming that person. I'm letting go of these old habits. I'm becoming this. And so because I was doing this, an opportunity came around that was outside of our normal wheelhouse. We typically do real estate and oil and gas and other types of projects. And this deal came around. And it was a much bigger deal than what we've done. It was much higher cash flow. And I almost missed it. But because I've been doing this practice of seeing myself in that, becoming that person, I was able to identify it. And so we're hoping to close in the next couple of weeks, but it basically will about 4 or 5X the profit in our business almost overnight, right? But how did that happen? It became because I created that ahead of time. I was able to walk into that and step into that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm curious about the flip side too. Like, so for people who are not intentional, maybe they're missing those things and they don't even know it. I mean, how do you, in these conversations, I'm curious if other people or even in your own experience have kind of talked about what enabled them to see where they were stuck. So, that deal, you wouldn't necessarily know if you did miss it because it just would have been gone, right? Like how do you actually develop the recognition and the awareness of, okay, like step one, I am here. And I am doing this negative self-talk. That's one example, right? Or I am missing deals left and right. Like, how do you develop that piece? Because I often find that once you get past that, the other stuff starts to open up sequentially. But without it, you can't ever see past step 2.
Yeah. It is a really good point. I think that it's really important. A lot of times we're stuck in our business. Michael Gerber in the book, The E-Myth Revisited, talks about, not just working in your business, but working on your business. And I think a part of it too is, again, not just being stuck in the day-to-day, what you're doing, but taking steps back and saying, am I getting the results of what I want? Is this doing what I want it to do? Right? Am I getting to where I want to get to? So every quarter I take 2 days off. I just kind of go back and I take time, reflect, pray, do all the things that you just kind of reflect. Am I getting the results in my life that I want? And if not, then I can kind of have some time and space to kind of reflect and make new goals and things like that. Now, in the book, Think and Grow Rich, but if somebody has not read the book, Think and Grow Rich, it's an older book. It's about 70, 80 years old, but it's a classic. Napoleon Hill, which no relation to me, even though we have the same last name, he says, spend 30 minutes a day thinking about the person that you intend to become. Spend 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a long time, right? And I think not that you have to spend 30 minutes, but if you were to spend time every single day visualizing the person that you intend to become, right? You with a 10x or 100x wealth, or you with amazing relationships, or you with all the freedom of time and creating what you want to create. If you spend time in that space, then you're going to begin to see, okay, I'm not there now, but this is the person that I'm becoming, right? So you're creating that, you're intentionally creating that. And what'll happen, I mean, I can imagine a lot of times we're just limited by our own creativity and our own imagination. What would it look like for me if I'm a billionaire? What would it look like if I'm able to give to these causes I believe in, if I'm able to really make the impact that I want to create? So I begin to create that, right? So I don't think it comes from, what can happen sometimes, it comes from a place of lack of like, I see other people doing things they started when I did, but their business is 10 times, and I get sad and jealous and like, oh my, why am I not there? But I think it's important to sit in a place of like, well, what is possible with where I'm at? Who can I become? And then from there, then you can say, okay, well, if I'm this person, I'm going to keep stepping into that, walking in that, believing in that. And then what happens is it starts to catch up, and then you have these breakthroughs, and it's like, well, that happened because of the work you did ahead of time.
Yeah, I great book, by the way. And I don't know. I think it was written so long ago. I don't think it's completely accurate. I think 30 minutes is fine, but it should be like 15 minutes about, who is the person I want to become, and then the other 15 minutes of Harmonious at Lunch, for sure. Like, you should listen to one episode a day. What do you think?
I love it. Yeah. I think both in the same time, one in one ear and one in the other, right?
The audacity for me to compare this show to Napoleon Hill's book.
That's crazy.
Book, man. Crazy. I'm insane. I've officially lost my rocker. This is the last episode of Harmonious at Lunch. No,
you're having fun though.
This is a great conversation. I appreciate you opening the door, because I think for business owners and entrepreneurs who are the listeners of this show, we don't want to be stuck in a job forever, even if we own the business. Oftentimes it is a job. You're responsible for the day-to-day outcomes, and we want to figure out how to get to that next level. Well, figuring out how to make money in your sleep is that next level, whether it's through your business or through investing, whether it's real estate, and it could be stock portfolio, who knows? But the mindset, I think, is the key foundation that a lot of people miss and overlook. So you said the book's not out yet. Do you have a date on when your book's coming out?
Actually, I wrote the book, and then I realized I was trying to do the mindset and habits and networking and all the things that I just thought is too much. I just only really want to focus on the wealth worthiness. So I'm in the process of rewriting it. So hopefully this year, hopefully in 2025.
Okay, you'll have to come back on a book tour and announce that.
Love to, man.
Right. But this is a fantastic episode. If the listeners do want to take that next step, if they want to learn a little bit more about you, learn about mailbox money, what do you want them to do?
So I've got a free guide for your audience, free gift. It's about inflation. So we talk about inflation, basically people, everything costs 50% more than it did since COVID, right? So just all this currency creation. So how do you actually, instead of being pained by like, oh my gosh, everything costs more at the grocery store or gas, how do you get on like it actually works to your advantage? So there's some creative strategies using, this is the guide right here, it's using real estate or using other things. It's a 40-page guide, and we'll send that to you, using even some precious metals and borrowing and some advanced strategies. But if you text the word inflation to 33777, we'll send that to you for free. And then you can hear about our upcoming opportunities, or we can connect with you in other ways.
That's fantastic. Super cool. And it's an unfortunate situation we find ourselves in, but that's another key mindset thing, right? If there is, I think it was Warren Buffett, right? If there's blood in the streets, there's money to be made. Is that?
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, I think he's got a bunch of great quotes. So that's probably one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, this is a tough time, and I of course respect that for everybody listening, but there is opportunity out there everywhere, depending on how you see it and how you look for it. So Bronson, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon. Really appreciate it.
So text inflation to 33777. It's also down in the show notes below, along with website, social media links. You can go check out what Bronson's up to. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group, so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.